Two things I want to talk about in the gaming news world this week. The first is the big question: is the gaming industry in trouble? I mean, it's a question we ask all the time, but it's been hitting headlines a lot this week and has been the topic of conversation specifically because layoffs surrounding Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals is a massive thing right now. One of the big live service games to hit what some people would consider to be like an endless money printing thing. If Marvel Rivals can't hack it, what does that say for the rest of the industry? Well, I think there's a little bit more to it. Well, the big story here is that NetEase, the developer publisher behind Marvel Rivals, did lay off seemingly quite a bit of employees, most notably Marvel Rivals' director. Someone you would presume is at the top. Well, it's technically a director for Marvel Rivals. So it's the US-based director and seemingly some people under this director that have been let go. Laid off, whatever freaking term you want to use. Sacked for the British people. Does that help? NetEase did put out a statement, and I quote, "We recently made the difficult decision to adjust Marvel Rivals' development team structure for organizational reasons and to optimize development efficiency for the game. This resulted in a reduction of a design team based in Seattle that is part of a larger global design function in support of Marvel Rivals." That is the long and short of it from the horse's mouth officially, and I do think that that statement, which came out, like probably almost a day after this was announced and people kind of popped off, it is a little bit less sexy. It is a more boring answer, a structural, organizational type of thing, with a lot of speculation, a lot of industry people kind of guesstimating that NetEase is shoring things up, and now that the game is rolled out, they are prioritizing the work they do in Asian development studios. This is because from what we know, Marvel Rivals was co-developed between a studio in Seattle and a studio in China. Video Games Chronicle, VGC, who I'll link below, does also point out that there has been speculation that NetEase is just kind of pulling out of North America altogether in some instances, backing out of a Vancouver studio that they were involved with. But I don't know. I think they still have significant investments both in North America and abroad. Yes, establishing studios and then kind of starting to walk away from them is one thing, but I think it's an unfortunate reality. And again, I'm talking as like an armchair person, not like a professional analyst or anything, but Marvel Rivals was made. It had a lengthy development. It is off the ground now. It is a success. It's like cracking the top charts. Of course, I think it cracked like the top 5, according to some analysts. And now the developer, publisher, parent company is shoring things up and keeping things under one roof, and what was maybe essentially in North America, like in Seattle, a support studio, they decided to give all those people the axe and focus it all in one condensed place. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's good. With the success of Marvel Rivals, it shows that it's not just always about success and failures and stuff. It's also the unfortunate reality of corporations doing corporation things, corporate restructuring, and all this bullshit that, yes, gives people the shaft. And at the end of the day, like, I think it's a good reminder to some people, like, whether corporations succeed or flop, they're still going to do their thing, which is cut costs, save money, bottom line stuff. I don't really have like a good positive way to end that one, but I am curious to see where NetEase goes. NetEase is pretty massive at this point, and with game development in China really just continuing to bulk up, I'm curious to see where things go with them. Because on the one hand, for a lot of people, they just started out as kind of like, that Asian mobile game company. They're now huge. And like I mentioned before, even if they pulled out of some things, they do have significant investments. They are funding studio veterans to make new studios, a Call of Duty veteran, a Resident Evil veteran, and they're funding like what seems to be now big AAA games. I'm curious to see where that goes. And then also, despite the layoffs with Marvel Rivals, I don't think Marvel Rivals is going anywhere anytime soon. It is curious that they did reveal the new like Fantastic Four characters and the reveal trailer and stuff the same day that they laid those people off. To me, it almost gives the vibe that they were trying to like bury that news when you search Marvel Rivals. I don't want to get too like conspiracy theorist or anything, but that just seems like shitty PR. Anyway, let's move on. Hey, now before we keep going, this video is sponsored by Vessi. If you're new around here, Vessi has been a long-time sponsor because they just provide dependable, comfortable footwear. They got a variety of different shapes, colors, sizes for every type of person, every type of situation, but the biggest selling point for me, and probably for a lot of people, is that they're 100% waterproof, but they don't feel like a waterproof shoe. They're keeping your feet cool in the summer, they're keeping your feet warm in the winter, specifically right now, that's been really good, and specifically with their style, the Chelsea. Maybe, you know, with the winter right now and snow out there, you're looking for something that's kind of a boot, but a little bit more stylish, easy to slip on and off. The cool high top design, and then of course the fact that these are, once again, totally waterproof really makes a difference. With a waterproof shoe, it just helps you be really adventurous. Maybe you're going on a walk along a stream or a pond with your loved one, and you can impress them by just jumping in the water. That degree of freedom is really a big deal, whether you're, you know, in the woods, on a hike, in the city, you're set with Vessi. So if you want to check them out, find the perfect partner for your February adventures and check out Vessi's whole waterproof line at vessi.com/onjake. When you're there, you get 15% off your first purchase at checkout. Again, that's vessi.com/onjake for some versatile footwear for 15% off. And big thanks to Vessi for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. The next story is Tony Hawk involved. You know I was going to mention it. It seems like the Tony Hawk rumor mill is firing up again. This is a follow-up to a couple of months back, Tony Hawk teasing that they want to do something and that he has been talking to Activision. You may remember on social media I did that, like I recreated the scene from Goodfellas. Sons of bitches! It's just a stupid idea. I don't know why I did that. I was excited. But now we're getting kind of further confirmation of more Tony Hawk. And this is a big deal for me personally because if you're new around here, I fucking love Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is like one of my favorite. It's like one of the only video game series I'm kind of good at. I play them endlessly. I still keep Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake on my PlayStation, just installed, ready to go at all times. I have it on Steam Deck. I'm always playing it. I love these games since day one. They are all my children, even the shitty ones. I don't care. I've played them all. I love them all. And I thought they did a really, really, really good job with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remade. I actually brought this channel back when that game was announced, if you remember. In like 2020, it was the early days of COVID. This channel was dormant for almost like a year while I was just kind of just working with game ranks and stuff like that. I had just completely halted it. I was like, I've been doing this channel for like 10 years, but there was that gap where I didn't. And what brought me back was wanting to talk about a new Tony Hawk game. And so that was great. That was a huge success, but that was Vicarious Visions. Vicarious Visions has been absorbed into the whole Activision Blizzard thing, and it's kind of like a Blizzard support studio now, specifically titled Blizzard Albany, not Vicarious Visions, which when that happened, I was really pissed. I made a video about that. That actually absolutely sucks because I feel like Vicarious Visions really cracked the code on the Tony Hawk feel. They just did such a good job of blending the old and the new because I've seen it been bungled before. Some of the later Tony Hawk games, and then like the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, the original Tony Hawk 1 remake, remaster, you can really screw up Tony Hawk. So they really had something going there. And then that was it, right? So I'm curious to see now how it goes. I'm getting sidetracked though. The news now is Tyshawn Jones, professional skateboarder, was on The Breakfast Club. Had a great interview where he happened to drop the fact that he's in a new Tony Hawk game. I'm going to read the quote. We can't show their video. I don't want to get like copyright claimed by Breakfast Club or anything like that. But he says, and I quote, "I'm in a Tony Hawk coming out. That's cool. They got a new one they're remastering, so that's about to come out. I was in the last one." And yes, that is true. Tyshawn Jones was in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Essentially, like they did kind of like a blending of new and old, both old music, new music, old skaters, new skaters. Tyshawn Jones was one of the newest skaters. He's also very good. Look him up, watch some videos. There's like a Thrasher video in San Francisco that's really good, but I digress. What I do want to point out though is like, he's legit. Like he's not just like some fucking guy. He's also like, as far as I know, like he's like an entrepreneur. He does all this stuff. So I don't think he's just like talking out of his ass or saying something goofy. Couple that with the fact that he was also in the other one, it seems likely. So of course the big question is, what is it? A lot of people are going to say, oh boy, I hope it's Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2 or something like that. I don't think that's the case. I think those are way trickier. There's so much work that has to be done for those, even more licensing and stuff like that. I think the likely culprit is a Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remake, because that was something that was initially, I guess, in the works, or something they wanted to do. It seemed like a clear bet, but unfortunately it got kind of washed away with the whole Xbox Activision Blizzard thing. The whole transition, I don't know. And like I said, the developers behind it, Vicarious Visions, are now seemingly kind of a support studio. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe they have been brought back to pump out more Tony Hawk, and I would absolutely love to see that. Tony Hawk has expressed interest, of course. It seems like the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake wasn't a flop. Obviously, they're not the most big, insane things. Like, they're not the next Fortnite or anything like that at that point. Like, you know, a lot of the people that played those games are getting a little bit older, but there's still a demand for something like that, because there's not a lot of skating games out there. Skate is still kind of in this like weird limbo right now, this kind of like alpha, beta, early access type thing. They're trying something very different. And obviously it's a very different style of gameplay, but that still seems pretty far on the horizon. So I am really curious to see if this does come to fruition. And I do hope it's some of the folks in Albany working on it. I mean, technically that studio, or Vicarious Visions, it was like kind of like north of Albany, but chances are there are some people still there that had their hands on 1 and 2. And in my mind, they just fucking get it. So if they are getting another crack at Tony Hawk, hell yeah. And you know what? If it's not Tony Hawk 3 and 4, it should be Project 8. That's an unpopular opinion, but also maybe it's just a new one. Maybe they took the gameplay concept, the concepts they constructed and built so well in 1 and 2, and they're just putting out a new fresh one. I'd like to see that too, just because I like the style of gameplay so much. It is so tight. It is so responsive. It is so fun to be competitive. It is so, in terms of like the depth and how you can express yourself with tricks and how you move around the environment. I could talk for weeks about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but I just really hope this is a thing, man. I need this, okay? Sorry, you're probably like watching like, dude, relax. But Tyshawn Jones, thank you for possibly giving me a glimmer of hope. I hope it is a real thing. I hope he didn't just do some studio session, mocap recording, whatever, and then it languished in development hell forever, or never came to, I really hope that this is pretty far along. So between that and between like last year, not too long ago, Tony Hawk teasing something, I'm happy. I'm hopeful for the future. That's all you can do, right? It's just hope for the future. Remember Hope for the Future? That Paul McCartney song he did for Destiny? Can you put that on screen, Andrew? That was weird. What a fever dream that was. Anyway, those are the two news stories I got for you this week. I do have a bonus thing I like to throw in sometimes, something not usually related. I saw Captain America Brave New World. Now, you guys know I am not immune. I love superhero bullshit. I love all this stuff. Some people call it cape slap, but I've been at this for my entire life, okay? I love comic books. I also love Captain America. I love Captain America. I am that annoying guy who's like, well, actually, most people like misunderstand Captain America. There is a lot of depth to the character. I love being pedantic and annoying about him. I love a lot of different types of Captain America runs. I also like what they did with Brubaker's Winter Soldier in a movie, and then Civil War, and just everything, right? I also really like Anthony Mackie. There's something about him. I just really enjoy him on screen, and I thought he was like a fun, interesting Sam Wilson Falcon, and I even agree with him earning the shield. He really gets it. But this movie, to me, just felt like it could have been an email. I don't know. It was very clearly lost in translation, and very clearly a byproduct of this period where Marvel is really struggling to just put things together. This movie, to me, I guess maybe it's because I like editing or something like the movie to me just felt so held together by a thread. You can tell where there was reshoots. Shots look like shit. And like, that's not something I usually care about. But in terms of like wanting something good, you look at this and it's like, it's barely a movie in some instances. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like, it's not like a Madam Web or like any of that bullshit. Like, it's got some entertaining moments. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I like some of the weird little things that they tried to do with it. And Harrison Ford was all right. And the Red Hulk was cool. The Red Hulk fight was really, really cool for what it was. But it also feels like this movie just didn't know what they wanted to do with a Sam Wilson Captain America. And it makes the show, Falcon and Winter Soldier, look so much better in retrospect. I don't think that show was the greatest. I liked lots of aspects of it, but ultimately it wasn't really too memorable for me. But now watching this movie, they clearly had such a stronger focus and direction for that. They understood the Sam Wilson character and they knew what they wanted to do with it. They wanted to tackle different issues. They wanted to tackle the character taking on the burden, dealing with the fact that, like, he's not Steve Rogers. He is a different type of person. He is not a super soldier. That show understood all that. The show also did the whole Isaiah Bradley thing really well. A different spin on it, but yeah, they took the core ideas, they did something interesting, and then the movie comes along and it's like they were kind of like, oh fuck, I don't think enough people watched that show, so we need to kind of bring it around. But so for like my dad who didn't watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now he's just like, there's a black Captain America, what's that about? He goes and watches this movie, he gets literally nothing from that. Casual audiences, I don't think, take away a lot from that. I think it did Sam Wilson Captain America kind of dirty. It did the MCU as it is right now kind of dirty because it didn't really do anything. It also did the Isaiah Bradley thing dirty. It also kind of, actually, believe it or not, the only thing it didn't do dirty is the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk movie, which is just a bizarre choice. But hey, whatever. I just wanted a little more, but I got barely a story. I got action and stuff that mostly looked like crap. I don't think it is the worst MCU movie. Like I said, there are some redeeming things. Some of the action scenes are all right. Some little laughs are all right. The fact that they wasted Giancarlo Esposito on like a throwaway bootleg Sidewinder really drives me insane. But anyway, I could keep ranting. I like my comic book characters. I like mashing them together. I like seeing weird things. And there's a lot of things that I did like that, again, are kind of in spoiler territory, but I'll just leave it at that. Captain America Brave New World for me, like on my Letterboxd or whatever, I think I gave it like 2.5 stars out of 5. And it's mostly just because, like, I think I hold a lot of these characters and these stories and these things in high regard. And the thing I watched, while not the biggest disaster, to me just felt like it wasn't really worthy. But that's what I got for you this week. Go read a comic book. Now, I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think about Marvel Rivals and them laying off a director and the Seattle North American studio. What's up with that? Let's talk about that, but let's also talk about your hopes and dreams for a new Tony Hawk. You think Tyshawn is talking out of his ass? You think he's for real? Like I said, I think the evidence points to it possibly being for real, but let me know what you think, what you would want from a new Tony Hawk. If you saw a Brave New World, let's chat. Let me know anything you want in the comments. I like talking with you guys, but if you want to yell at me directly, you can find me on all the platforms, basically. Just look up at Jake Baldino. Of course, I put out videos all the time. I just put out a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 review if you want to check that out. But every Wednesday here, I do 2 news stories that I want to drill into that I find personally interesting. But of course, you can catch me on Game Ranks, on the Before You Buys and stuff like that. Either way, clicking the like button helps if you get what I'm trying to do here. I'm just talking about stuff I like, stuff I love. So that's it. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. See ya.